Many South Africans are hoping to make their voices heard. Community activists and advocacy groups are coming together in what they're calling a national shutdown against gender-based violence, with major gatherings taking place at Constitution Hill and other key locations across Johannesburg. The protest is part of a nationwide campaign demanding urgent action to address the rising levels of violence against women and children in South Africa. SABC News senior reporter Chriselda is keeping a close eye on one leg of this demonstration. She joins us now from Constitution Hill in Johannesburg, where, Chriselda, it seems already the numbers are beginning to swell there in anticipation for this major act of solidarity, for lack of a better term.
Well, that's right, Ayanda. We're expecting hundreds of people to converge here on Constitution Hill. Certainly a significant location for this particular struggle. What they're talking about today is calling for an end to gender-based violence. And while the focus is on South Africa, significantly, while those high-level talks that you speak of will be taking place at Nasrec, there are many activists who believe that part of that high-level agenda should speak to ending gender-based violence. This is certainly not just a South African problem. I can tell you here at Constitution Hill, there are people from around the world who have come here hoping perhaps that part of that critical agenda, the discussions that will be had, one of the issues that will be centered around is calling for an end to gender-based violence. And certainly here at Constitution Hill, you know, a hallmark that reminds you of the struggle here in South Africa, the struggles of today that we're dealing with is issues relating to gender-based violence as well as femicide. So a number of people have gathered here. It's a multitude of organizations that have come together, basically calling for an end to gender-based violence. One of those individuals who's here today is Kia Moapelo, who's from the New Economy Hub. Kia, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, it is packed to capacity here, and it really signifies this call for an end to gender-based violence. And Ayanda, just before we get to Kia, I can tell you at about 12 o'clock, the symbolism of what you're about to see is going to be hundreds of women and men who've also gathered here today who'll be lying on the floor silently for 15 minutes to basically signify or to remember women who've been killed as a result of GBV. Kia, thank you very much indeed for joining us. What a significant moment. And I can tell you the numbers are that they really signify the importance of calling on South Africa, calling on the world to deal with this scourge. There can be no progress or development without dealing with one of these challenges.
Yeah, definitely, and you're definitely right. We have actually thousands of people here today gathered, and we really believe that because women are the machinery that holds capitalism, and we produce, particularly in the global south, the social reproductive labor, it's important that we notice and recognize care work. We recognize women and the role that they play in sustaining our economies and how they're being sidelined, killed and discarded. And that's why it's important for us globally, because this gender-based violence is not a South African issue. It is a global issue where there's poverty, where there's collapsing economies and democracy, where there's marginalization, the violence, it sort of dies on black women's bodies. And in that moment, we really want to observe that in solidarity with Women for Change.
What do you say about, you know, the world leaders? I mean, everyone is descending. The G20 leaders are descending on South Africa. Some of them have already arrived. And part of the agenda, there's so much to talk about, you know, so many global challenges. This, you are saying, should be one of them. A key to the discussions there should be issues about gender-based violence and femicide, which, you know, women continue to be butchered around the world.
Yep. I think actually, as a matter of fact, the only discussion that's worth having, in fact, is about women and the violence that they're facing. Because in addition to illicit financial flows, debt, our climate justice issues that we're calling for, we understand that all of this impacts women more profoundly than anyone else. And I think that, in fact, the G20, we need to have something of that sort dealing with gender-based violence, not as part of the agenda, not as a segment into the program, but rather an entire summit of world leaders that are attending to this issue because we understand that it's a global issue.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. And I want to bring in Vanessa, who's one of the survivors of gender-based violence. I mean, it's important to have these discussions. Vanessa, you're a survivor. And, you know, as you come here today, what sort of discussions do you want to see happening? Because we're heading towards 16 days of no violence against women and children. Discussions have been had. There certainly needs to be a time for action.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'm overwhelmed. The fact that the country could get together like this and actually celebrate survivors, but also has a proactive approach to ending GBVF. Yes, there's 16 days of activism, but the first prize will be 365 days of activism. We can't just champion a cause for 16 days and then put it to bed and then resurrect it next December or next November. This needs to be part of our social compact. It should be a part of a daily conversation that's happening, and it should not just be a once-off event. It needs to happen. Today I'm overwhelmed with the number of people that are here. However, we would like to see this, even if it's on a weekly basis. People are in public gatherings.
Right.
We would love to see them champion this cause.
All right, Vanessa, thank you very much indeed. And Ayanda, it's not only here where multitudes of women as well as men, and I'm really hoping to speak to some of them a little bit later on. I know that some of the discussions are still taking place in plenary at this particular time, but at exactly 12 o'clock we're expecting to see hundreds of people who will be lying on the floor for 15 minutes, and that will symbolize, the women who have been killed as a result of gender-based violence. And that's happening exactly at 12 o'clock for 15 minutes.